Your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hi, and welcome to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, Target Individual Experience. Welcome to another video, and we're going to talk about the convergence of BCI, right, which is brain-computer interface, and our mind. And what do we as TIs, what do we do to continue to expose that this has been going on for a very long time, despite what the media is putting out there as something that's coming in the future. But for the past 40 to 50 years, I should say, 50 years or 60 years, um, they were already conducting experiments with BCI. Okay, now this is in its earlier form. Okay, but since the mid 90s, the security agencies and private military contractors are like DARPA, okay, and other um, uh, industry of weapons defense system or makers of weapons defense system, they have been engaging in these types of experiments, as well as universities who have connection with the U.S. government, in which they receive funding, partial funding, and we got to understand why, particularly with the universities. So we know about MK Ultra, the CIA mind control experiment, in which the psychiatric industry was involved, in which universities was involved, in which prison institution was involved, and who know where else, right? And so, as a TI, okay, um, and again, I speak about my twin brother who was a TI, who became a TI in the mid 1990s. Um, you know, like even recently, about a year ago, he started telling me about that he believed that when we were younger, being twins, is we were already in this program, or selected to be in this program, and have been in this program. I don't share that sentiment because I don't know enough. Um, but who knows? Maybe I might start to feel like that. Maybe, as they start to reveal more things to me. Like I haven't talked about this, but within the past, I would say uh, maybe 4 or 5 months. Um, the whenever the words their father, his father, or I hate your dad, that sort of thing. Um, they would use the car honking, um, you know, I guess to signify whatever it is they want to, not signify, but to signal. Sometimes they'll do this to give you, to put a thought in your head. Okay, could be your own thought, could be saying, hey, maybe, because of my father, I'm in this. Who knows? But anyway, I'm not focused on that. I focus on uh, what I deal with as TIs and what you guys deal with as TIs at the present moment, and drawing from my past experience as well as the past experience of other targeted individuals. Okay, um, and so it is important, because for me, it's important to try to be focused on certain aspect of our targeting and not to um, go too far off of uh, what I try to concentrate on, because in this program they will have you um, confused. Okay, that's the one thing they do, is to confuse you, because again, it's part of the diagnosis for whatever mental illness they want to diagnose you with, when it suits them, right, when it's convenient for them. And so just understanding that, I told myself for a long time ago that, I need to concentrate on the psychology and the technology. Okay. But more so on the psychology, because the technology is used to affect us psychologically. Right. And so, hence the reason why you don't see me talking about other subjects. At least if I do talk about it, I don't spend a lot of time uh, on those subjects, because I try to stay, somewhat focused. Though it's hard, but you know, if I'm talking and I might go back and forth between the two, that's fine. You know, because it's still the two things that I try to focus on, particularly in being a TI, and to expose uh, what is being done with those two fields, right? The technological field and the psychological field. Okay. So recently, I was talking to another TI, Alda Misteriosa, and we were just talking. Sometimes because we're TIs, we text each other back and forth more than we speak, right? Because we both understand how the technology, right, that how it can influence us to trigger each other. Though I don't get triggered by what she says, because you know, I'm uh, not used to it, but I use my defense mechanism basically, and I'll tell her, you know, and so we have that um, relationship where, you know, if she knows that I'm saying things to trigger her, she will mention it, though in a much more vulgar way. Excuse me. Like me, I really don't like to curse, but sometimes it's okay to curse. Particularly of the frustration of being in this program, dealing with the psyops. And like I said, it's totally okay if you get mad, if you get angry. You just try not to get angry to the point where you know um, you're physically doing things to that is detrimental to yourself and to others, the people around you. Okay. But like I always said, if you're a TI and they continue to do this to you, and particularly when they hit you with these blitz, which is always awful. It's not. You can never be get used to the blitz, right? Because it's a heavy-handed psyops wage against you, and so you're going to get frustrated, as with anyone. I always say that the people who look at us and they're like, well, why are you angry? um, we're not angry all the time, okay? But you have to understand, anger is a natural emotional feeling that we all have, okay? Just like we have sadness, happiness, excitability, that's all part of who we are as human beings, you know. And there are those out there who have created and developed um, psychological uh, tactics, methods, techniques in order to manipulate our emotions. Um, as long as you know what's being done, you stand a better chance of um, combating it, right? Or not falling into those traps. But if you don't know, right, and particularly me being a black person, particularly in the black and Nigerian community, uh, with Nigerians who don't want to know, so they're easily manipulated, right? This is why they vote for politicians who go on the radio stations and on social media platform and news media platform and they do things, particularly Caucasian politicians when they come to the black community. They do things that is symbolic, right? Because again, they know how they condition us, right? So it is, and I give you an example. Like in the '90s when Bill Clinton ran for president, being on the Sydney Hall show, with a saxophone. All right, he would never do this going on. What's his name? Uh, David Letterman, or um, was Johnny Carson still doing his show back then, or was it Jay Leno? But anyway, any of those white nighttime, uh, I should say white, but those nighttime uh, talk shows that the, that the hosts were Caucasian, you he would never do that. And then his wife Hillary Clinton, when she was running for president, went on to the was it the Breakfast Club, you know, and again she had hot sauce in her bag. She took it out, and that was the rave in the black community. I understand how they condition us as a people, right? So this is why I said that I can't separate who I am, my blackness, and being a black person, but also a TI. I cannot separate the two because when it comes to the psychological aspect, the programming aspect, uh, you know, can see it now in a much broader way than ever I had ever seen it before. Because before, right, and I would say I was a Negropean back then, and transitioning into becoming a black man, having more of a black conscious thought, and that's is also you know part of the reason why, particularly there have been an attack on particularly young black men in this country, right? So just think about this: if the FBI and the Chicago Police Department can conspire to assassinate, right, to assassinate a young, what was it, 21-year-old Fred Hampton. He might be younger than that. I'm not sure, right? If they can conspire to assassinate, right, a young black man, you know, you know, I'm given their history. What else are they not able to do, right? And so, and again, I talk about how you have all these experiments, MK Ultra experiments, and again, when they go to the some of the victims of MK Ultra experiment, it is always the Caucasian people that you see. But we know from the records that they've done countless experiments on black people. So where are the black people? Why are they not interviewing the black people? Right? So understand how that gives a false sense of who the majority of the people was that were being experimented on in the MK Ultra program. Right? So we got people like Dr. Heat, who one of his assistants said that, you know, um, the N words are, how he loved to use the N words for his experiment in his experimentation for his experimentation because they were abundant of them and they were cheaper than cats. They were cheaper to experiment on than animals. Okay, so this is why, like I said, I explain these things because I know there are a lot of TIs out there who feel, well, I'm a TI, I'm white, I'm a TI, I'm Asian, or what have you. I'm a TI, I'm expect, which is fine. I'm not debating that. You know, I just debate my experience, and from my experience, I can see the broader conditioning of my people. Okay, and how we're conditioned, how I was conditioned, right? And how the media lies or hide the truth in order to create a certain narrative. Okay? Despite the facts being out there, they still lie. Like with history, you know? It's like I was watching a uh YouTube show, a YouTube content creator show, and people talk about like Alex Haley about how he how Roots wasn't based on his family history. He never said that, right? And again, and even though Roots was a fictional story, it was still based on reality, on things that actually happened, right? Whereas white people have wrote history books, right, with blatant lies, and they teach it to their children, but also us as black people and our children continue to do that. And we see now the war against, uh, history that involve true history, right? Slavery, the truth about Christopher Columbus, right? Um, the truth about the Constitution. Like many Americans don't know that there were two constitutions. Okay, so again, I mean, and uh, speaking about the men that wrote the Constitution, that all men are created equal, while owning slaves. Thomas Jefferson kept a young child locked in a room in his mansion, whom he repeatedly raped and had kids with. Right? So they don't want black people to know the history, right? Because they can no longer fool us when we know the, our true history. Not just also our true history, but their true history. They don't like that. So again, with you being a TI, me being a TI, we know that what they're doing, particularly when it comes to propaganda, is a one-sided story because we don't get to tell our sides, right? But they do, right? And then they manipulate us, drug us, in order to solidify within the masses of sheep's in their mind, the sheep's mind, that because we may act a certain way or we may look a certain way, then that means we're guilty. But they don't tell them that how they drug us. They don't tell them how they poison our food to create that fear or paranoia state within our mind. Okay, and then they converge and whatever narrative they want to put out there and say, look, this is how she's acting. This is how he's acting. It must be true. They're not saying these things, right? And particularly when we know that what they're doing, experimented on us, right? Any real TI will tell you. Matter of fact, they know that they've been microchipped. They know we are the victims of non-consensual human experimentation in the research for of brain-computer interface. All right. And so when they show you these pictures of, the videos of these quadriplegics, you know, how, you'll see them with electrodes planted in their brain or a microchip planted in their brain, but they still have a connected, a connector attached, right, to that chip that's placed, they have to drill a hole in the skull and all that shit. That's bullshit. Okay? That's bullshit. This is the tech sector or these uh, um, uh, higher learning institutions, okay, that are doing these sort of experiments and development in BCI. But we know that the U.S. government have been working on these things for decades. And I always talk about the New York Times article with Dr. Jose Delgado. What kind of human would would we like to create? Okay, and he talks, and the interviewer talks about the rhesus monkey that he has with him, and how he parts back the hair on her shoulders, and there's a small, tiny incision, right? That she had a this rhesus monkey had a microchip implanted in her shoulders that is able to, right, affect and control her behavior. I think it was her, the rhesus monkey, right? And this was in the early 70s. So, like I said, don't be fooled by what you see in the media, because what they have done is to, in our mind, create this belief that we're not more technically advanced than we actually are. And remember, the U.S. military is always a decade to 2 decades ahead of the private sector. And we know in America, most of these huge technological advancement came from the military. So the internet. How many of you know that the internet was created by the military, right? In the 1970s. And then in the 90s, early 90s, they gave the technology to the private sector, particularly the U.S. telecom industry. Okay, remember you had to pay for internet. Uh, well, you still got to pay now, but you remember you had like America Online, the dial-up, um, you know, connection. So when the U.S. military, as a matter of fact, go get the book The Jasons. It's about these highly uh, intellectual scientists who work for um, the Department of Defense. Not when I say work, that they can call them up and say, "Hey, we need your minds to develop this. We're thinking about developing this. You know, put your minds to work together. Here's the money, an unlimited amount of money, trillions of dollars. Okay, come on, go and read that book, The Jasons. All right, go look at what DARPA website. Go on with DARPA website. You'll see they talk about the M3, right? Brain computer interface, right? Where they can, the soldiers on the battlefield, they can give them instructions. So imagine if you're a spy, right? You might, uh, you're on a mission in another country. They don't got to brief you on the, well, they brief you on little specifics, but when you get there, then they can just, send you the information. So in case you get captured, then uh, they can either erase the information from your mind, or you just don't know because they haven't given it to you yet before you got captured. Okay, so things you gotta think about, right? But think STIs. So as I was saying, I was having a conversation, text back and forth with the Mysterioso, and she used Chat GP. I don't use Chat GPT for the simple fact because I know why they um, made it open source. Okay, because they need the public to teach this AI, how to think like human being, what kind of questions we're going to ask. And we see some people have used Chat GPT to take college exams. Okay, some people have used Chat GPT to write novels. Right, so to get us so dependent on AI, just like they have us so dependent on our cell phone to where we can't even barely remember anybody's phone number anymore. Okay, so these things have a negative effect. Okay, it has an aversive effect. So she had asked Chat GPT what its opinion on brain computer interface, right? And the first answer she got was one, mind control. And I'm reading this from my phone, the text. It says, mind control. In the wrong hands, BCI technology could be used to exert control over individuals by manipulating their thoughts and action. This could be used to coerce individuals into committing acts of violence and other criminal activities. Right now, mind you, they don't need BCI for that. But if you are a specific individual they want to control, let's say they want to control you and ascend you to a certain position within society. So if you're a political, if you're a politician, right, to be able to get you to the presidency and be able to control you, just like how they would do in other ways, such as run COINTEL program on you to try to set you up. If you're a senator, they might drug you, have you sleep with a prostitute, take pictures of you and stuff like that to blackmail, right? So I was talking about the kingpin in the Spider-Man comic book series, okay? And I would say this is how these agencies operate. They are the kingpins, okay? Model well, the Spider-Man character, the kingpin, is actually modeled off of these agencies, right? So whether it be the mob, organized criminal organization, um, you know, government organization, CIA, the FBI, you know, just if you ever just read the breakdown of the kingpin uh, in the Spider-Man comic book series. All right, so two, espionage. Oh wait, if I forget, see, I'm gonna move on. If I finish what I was going to say. Um, so they don't need brain BCI to control, or not to say, but to affect people behavior, right? So when I talk about silence outside spectrum, okay, it is uh, embedding our emotions within radio wave, microwave frequency signals, right? And uh, um, synchronizing it with our brain uh, wave signal to activate that emotion, right? So when it comes to our consciousness, that's an individual frequency. So when we talk about brain fingerprinting, it is the identification of your conscious mind. And we all have a different frequency when it comes to our consciousness, right? But when it comes to our emotions, right, it's all the same, it's the same neurons, right? That's in our brain that activates that, give us our emotional feelings, right? And it's the same across the board, unless we're talking about people who are uh, what do you call them? Like a person may have Asperger syndrome or Down syndrome, I should say, in where their emotional wiring in the brain is different, so they don't feel sadness, right? And so this is why sometimes some people who don't know a person may be or may have uh, Down syndrome, even though they may not look at Elon Musk, right? So their emotion. So you can have something that happened that affect you negatively. They cannot share that emotional connection with you, right? So their brain is wired differently. But for the vast majority of people, our brains are wired the same. Okay, whether you're male or female. Okay, we may have more uh, testosterone as male. Females may have more estrogen. In terms of emotionally, we may have that masculine way of thinking, right? But when it comes to our emotions, for women, you know, their emotions are they're more connected emotionally, while us men we're more connected visually, right? So we look at a woman based on the visual appeal, her visual appeal. Whereas women, they may look at a man with visual appeal, but if they, they will meet a man who is, let's say, um, may not be as visual appealing, but if he has money, right, or if he's in a, if he's more emotional, right, and they can connect, they feel easily connected to that, they will connect to that. Now, you know, obviously he has to have money because if he doesn't, that connection is not going to last that long, right? So women value money, whereas men value more of a woman's visual appeal and her femininity, right? Women are hypergamous, right? And that hypergamy belief comes from men who have or have a certain position within the society, usually the upper position, upper class, right? They have money, they have status, fame, what have you. You know, all basically all women are, you know, um, have they feel that that is very appealing to them. Okay, so again, understanding our psychology and how you know how they use it to manipulate us to condition society in a certain way. And I talk about nudging, right? So they are people, think tanks who basically use psychological manipulation to shift society's way of thinking, right? So when you're in a nation that you have two political groups or two ideology, major ideology, conservatism and liberalism. If you live in a city that's more liberal, and usually in the cities you find more liberals, um, they nudge the people that live within that society or that area, that state, to think a certain way. When you're in the more conservative states, they nudge people, psychologically manipulate them into thinking and believing in a certain kind of way. And again, this is being done by the elites of those uh, um, two groups, right? So, here we go here. Two, espionage. BCI technology could be. Did I explain what I said I was going to explain? Anyway, and I went off at a tangent, so you gotta forgive me. Espionage. BCI technology could be used to extract sensitive information from an individual by reading their thoughts. This could be particularly useful in espionage or other intelligence gathering activity. Now, it also can be used by law enforcement, right, for criminal investigation. But also remember that they can also put or create memories within your mind, what is called false memory, right? So you have a thing called false memory syndrome. Okay, again, there's a lot of aspect to psychology, to neurology, that as a TI, if you don't truly understand, or at least have somewhat of an understanding, because I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm not a psychologist, but over the years, reading articles, doing uh, these videos, have helped me to understand psychology a little bit better, right? Including my psychology or my psyche, and also, um, it's important also that I would say it's in the educational system, particularly when you're in high school and college, that psychology classes and courses should be mandatory. It doesn't matter what field you're into. You should at least have, um, you know, take require two courses in psychology. Right. So, three, malicious manipulation. Remember, this is all coming from Chat GPT. This is what she asked it, right? What are the dangers of brain computer interface? Okay. Three, malicious manipulation. BCI technology could be used to manipulate individual emotions, causing them to feel fear, anger, and other negative emotions. They could be used to incite violence or unrest or to disrupt social and political movement. For remote interrogation, BCI technology could be used to extract information from individual without their knowledge or consent. This could be particularly useful in interrogation or other intelligence gathering activity, right? So, these are all valid points. And, as a TI, I can tell you that I've said this before. There are times when I'm speaking to my daughter and she's asking me questions and I'm feeling like she's interrogating me, and this was from she was even younger. She's 9 now, and she still does it, but it doesn't bother me because I know it's not her. I know she's being influenced um, in ways because, again, the reason why they use her as opposed to my son, because a dad loves his daughter, right? And particularly when they're young, when they're at that age, um, they can manipulate children to put things in their mind to ask you certain questions that no child at that age should be asking you. Okay, so yeah. Anyhow, so let's go to the there's a on Lincoln, right? There is an article that I posted on Facebook. It's called hold on a sec here. When GPT chat converge with brain computer interface, the reboot. Okay, so I'm just going to I'm not going to read all of this stuff. But I just want to read a certain part of this, right? Um, okay, so we are heading towards a precise future where we don't just talk to the entire internet with voice enhancement, voice enablement, but we will collaboratively think on the move at any time, in fact, all the time, and at any place, in fact, everywhere. It will, and in real time, with the entire world, World Wide Web, along with anyone who happens to be online in the moment and anything smart that is connected. When AI language model converge with the final frontier of methods for humans to interface with technology, brain computer interface. So much for the geniuses who have been dismissing the global brain. And you got to excuse me for the way I'm speaking right now. Like I said, this yesterday particularly was very, very difficult because again, they had a blitz, and I'm in the house. So it's not like I'm outside, right? But they in the blitz in terms of the remote no monitoring to where it got to the point where I turned off my Wi-Fi, uh, my wireless router, um, turned off my Bluetooth on my devices while I was for me to read in peace. But that didn't help because again, it somewhat helped. I guess I didn't hear as much police sirens, but the car honking again through the remote new monitoring, and it was very very difficult. So again, this is the effect of it. Sometimes you'll see me reading and I'll read fine. Other times I'm reading and I can barely uh, read in such a pace, that you would consider to be normal, right? So sometimes when I'm looking at words, it may not register in my mind right away, or I may um, say words that's not there, right? So, uh, anyway, where was I? Okay, so I think everything smart is that. Okay, so when AI language model converge with the final frontier of method for human to interface with technology, brain computer interface, so much for the geniuses who has been dismissing the global brain, which is actual reality, which in actual reality has been rapidly forming for at least over a decade now, right? So again, they try to make it seem like this stuff is new over a decade now. No, again, no. Stop being gaslighted by these psychopaths, okay? And you always got to remember too that the CIA do employ writers, whether they be in the media or online tech uh, platforms, right? YouTube, even Facebook. And I always say this, right? And you think about it. In 2014, Facebook was conducting psychological experiments on its users, and they got caught, and nothing was done. They didn't pay a fine. Okay, who knows what damage they've done? They also use Instagram to conduct experiment on teenagers, particularly teenagers who have either committed the S word or thinking about that, to push them into that dark area to where they might commit those things. Okay? Nothing was done. Facebook wasn't fine. They had this big public charade in Congress by calling in Mark Zuckerberg and blah blah blah. Even with Cambridge Analytica, right? Which again used Facebook to manipulate people. Okay. Again, what was done. So anyhow, um, and I know many will yet continue to dismiss the idea of the global brain until it reaches its full premise: thought versus speech. Voice enabled AI language models will not disrupt anything. They will render obsolete and they will replace. That is a big difference. So, all these people, right? See they, you know, all these tech channels, these media in the media talk about ChatGPT and how great it is, and how students are using ChatGPT to pass exams and stuff like that. Why there's such a push on putting all these stories out there? All right, why are they trying to tell you some of the benefits of with ChatGPT? And also, right, we've seen this when they manipulate you to participate in your own destruction, okay, or your own uh early retirement because they don't need you anymore because now they have AI to replace you as a customer service person. All right, when they have robots in fast food restaurant replacing you as the cook. Okay, they will always make things seem to be fun or a game to get you to participate in your own demise. And yet, time and time again, we as human beings fail to understand and realize that. But why is that? It is because we are conditioned to think in a certain way. We are conditioned to see and not see things. We are conditioned to see what they want us to see and to not see what they don't want us to see using psychology. Okay? So, human customer service people on voice call at all levels of hierarchy or expertise everywhere in any industry will become history. They will not exist. Almost all jobs, the title of which carry the term analyst, will be completely redundant and obsolete. It's I'm talking about. I said the word analyst. The police siren in the background, right? Okay, that's what they set aside doing. All right. Um, okay, so where am I? Absolutely. Okay. Um, the people who work above such roles will do what perhaps hundreds of analysts currently do for them across the span of a calendar month, entirely on their own. Much better, virtually for free, and virtually instantly. While educators will never be replaced by technology, the teaching and education and educated methods of today will no longer exist. The educators or teacher will govern the process of learning for student or pupil under their respective charges rather than manage classrooms. There is a huge difference. Uh, there is a huge difference right there. Teachers redefining teachers redefined and reinvented the brain computer interface in convergence with AI language models through the impacts will be far greater and yet far more redefining. If you think what I describe about voice enabled AI language models translate to speed, consider how much faster you are able to think when you are able to speak I am not talking about people who hold the supernatural ability to speak before they think. And do not be fooled by the term brain computer interface. What the term really means is that you no longer interface with the computer at all. What it means is that you think and technology intelligently and autonomously auto- autonomously executes immediately that which you are thinking. It also means that anything that is software about technology drove tails directly, spontaneously, and ambiguously with your uh, thought train. Just give me a sec here. I feel my headaches coming on. Gotta go and get my headache medication. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. All right. Okay. So, um, let me just read this over again. It also means that anything that is software about technology dive tails directly, spontaneously, and ambiguously with your thought train. Your mind ambiguously guides ambiguous technology effortlessly. On the reverse, the web can and will guide your thoughts. This is an existential level upgrade that exponential because we will just several rungs on the evolutionary ladder of our experience because that would otherwise take years to learn. Without reaching the level of mastering it, technology can guide you to work on or perform instantly at your will or necessity. Imagine for perspective, an untrained person guided by the internet is able to conduct an emergency neurosurgery successfully to save a life. No, we could never want that sort of a situation. The point is, however, that when the technology behind ChatGPT enhance and evolve, no longer merely responds to your queries, but actively collaborates with your thought process through BCI. The speed of knowledge acquisition, processing, and application becomes instantaneous as such. Truly, when that happens, it will be almost a case or impossible for nothing. That is our future. Okay. So I just wanted to read that. There's more you can read, but I'm not going to read the rest of it. I think it's important that we understand uh, what is really has happened and what is continues to progress as they uh, I think at this point they've perfected um, and they've been perfected the technology, particularly the military, Department of Defense, as well as the CIA, DARPA, and they've perfected it, 2 decades ago. Okay, because 2 decades ago, when I first started experiencing what I was experiencing, I knew I was microchipped somewhat. At first, I wasn't sure, because again, when you talk about these things to your family members, they're thinking you're crazy. So, you go, um, you know, see a therapist. They'll this, it goes, right? You tell them certain things. You particularly tell them that, hey, the government is doing this, and all of a sudden you are paranoid. Even worse, they're diagnosed you with schizophrenia, right? And so, um, in the beginning, I after learning about V2K, and I said to myself, I said, wait, I'm hearing my own voice, right, giving me suggestions, and how did I um, pick up on that? Okay, is every weekend, right? They will uh, embed, well, not every weekend, but they will embed within your mind that you will go out to whatever destination, but you will always go to that same destination. And when you go to that same destination, you will see a perp there, and how they're going to make themselves known to you is that as soon as you enter that establishment, or you are, or wherever it is that you're going, they will give you the thumbs up sign, right? And again, this will happen every time you go to that area or establishment, wherever it is that you're going, you will see that happening. Okay, and so then you start to, maybe most people don't even realize that, but they start to think, hey, why is I have this strong urge or this thought in combination with this strong urge to go to wherever it is that you would go to. And when I start to realize that, I said to myself, you know what? I think I'm being programmed, right? I think I have been programmed. And when I stopped going, because they still very, they expect this, right? So when I wake up and I felt the urge to put them out, I would just stay in bed. I would consciously say to myself, nope, don't go. Stay in bed. And when I didn't go, I remember the first time it happened was I didn't get out of bed, I didn't get dressed, and I didn't go out. Within about an hour later, uh, they sent the fire trucks driving down my block. Uh, Sirens loud, like really, really loud. Okay, really, really loud. And there's a couple of videos uh, that I've filmed, um, particularly when by Pam, how they would send the fire trucks on her block, right? And they would be like right on under, like on the block, but I could see them, right? And they would get on the block making all this noise, and they would be there for about a few minutes, okay? And they would come out of there. They would always go into this one building across the street, and of course, the guy there, he's one of the biggest perp who they use to attack me, psychologically attack me. They will always go into his. I think he lived in one of those the houses, right? But it's in the building shape. If you live in a big city, you know what I'm talking about. Um, and they would come out. They would go in. They would come out. No, they would spend no less than a minute or two. Come right back out. Get in there. The fire trucks and drive off. Or if let's say arriving on the block, they would be standing around, just standing around. And as soon as they see me, they would get into the fire trucks, turn on their sirens, and drive away. So imagine going through many years of that, many years of that, right? It was horrible, and it still is horrible. It does. They don't stop. Okay, they don't stop. And this is why, again, I do what I do to show people what's really going on. And since I have, and again too, because when you start to show a pattern of this sort of psychological torture through noise campaign, all of a sudden, then they kind of like, oh, we can't continue to do this because he's filming and he's definitely going to be showing a pattern here. So they will take breaks, but eventually, like I said, they will come and they will hit you with a blitz. And the blitz are one of the worst thing you can experience as a TI. Okay, and like I said, this is why you have to develop defense mechanism. So one of my defense mechanism, and I'm going to show you guys here. And again, I'm not trying to. Where am I putting up the target at? That's but they do that, right? Sometimes you'll see them. All of a sudden, you'll see a whole bunch of people with targets bag, right? Signifying that you're a targeted individual. They're targeting you. Again, it's funny how they relay these messages, right? They're subliminal, based off of how they know they've conditioned you, how they know they have brainwashed you. Okay, so one of the um, and I'm gonna choose a color that is I haven't used this color yet, you know, um, uh, but I use colors right now. I have not used this color on the perps. They used to at one point. I was seeing a lot of people wearing this color, but it doesn't have the same effect in me, right? At least I didn't respond to when they were using that color to target me in a way that they will continue to use it because again, it doesn't really have that effect in me. But I know of another TI who was telling me about another guy that he knows that is a TI that they use this color with a lot. Okay, um, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. Um, but uh, he was he knows another TI who has a girlfriend or have you, and I guess they broke up. The girlfriend got pregnant, and again, this is a reoccurring theme, particularly with male TIs. Like for example, my brother had a girlfriend. They broke up. I mean, this is what they do, right? So they break up in relationships. A few months went by. I guess whoever they use, whichever male they use, um, got her pregnant, dumped her. Then she came back to him as if he's supposed to take care of this other person's child, right? So like I said, it is a recurring theme that they do with TIs, right? There's certain things they do across the board to us. I'm speaking from the perspective of a male TI. I don't know what they do with women, but I do know for women they sexually assault them, right? Um, uh, there was a video with Dr. John Hall, um, in which he was an anesthesiologist. He was also a targeted individual. He was dating a woman, and he told her about what was happening to him and that they were going to come after her. And she said one morning she woke up and she felt that something was wrong, so she went to the hospital, and they, you know, did an examination of her, and they're saying that yeah, she had signs that she was, you know, can't say the word grape. I should say grape. Okay, and it was on the news, so she had to pack up her things and leave. And this is what I see again. Another thing that's reoccurring with TIs is that they will leave. They try to make me leave, but I would say no. I'm going to be here because you're not going to get rid of me, the evidence, right? That will prove what you are doing, what you have done. Okay, and that's what they want. So when Ti move, they're like, okay, well, we don't got to worry about him exposing us anymore, you know. But when you move, they still will target you. Doesn't matter where you go. I've been out of the country, uh, different countries. They still target you. Alda Mysteriosa, when her targeting began, she tried to move away from all of the nonsense. She went to Europe. They target her. Okay, she was telling me so about she had to go to the American embassy, and um, they were going to help her address certain things that was happening to her, but she also said that she had went to the police. I think she went to Italy. I think I'm not sure, Italy or France, what have you. And the police told her that we know what it is that you're going through. In Europe, they call it mobbing, a mobbing in society, right? So I started looking this thing up, and I'm just like, yeah, Europe had a big in Europe they had a huge issue of this sort of psychological harassment. So when the police told her that you need to go to the American embassy. So she went to the American embassy, explained what was happening. Um, you know, the person she spoke to that believed her because she said I went to the police station and they told me that this is what I'm experiencing. So she said that she waited. Then when the person in the embassy came back, the person told her that he cannot help her. When she asked why, he said that he's been told not to help her. You know, so some TIs are able to get confirmation that yeah, this is not just regular people that's doing this. This is the government that's doing this, right? Including also my brother. Was seeing a therapist, explained to her what's happening, been seeing her for months. When she told him that she believed what he was saying, the next session he went back because he had a, every month you see her, um, and they had already made an appointment. He said that when he went back after she told him that she believed him and it was horrible what they were doing to him, they removed her, not just as his therapist, but from the facility. She no longer worked at the facility. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, so the color that I use colors, right? So like I said, I don't want to trigger anybody, and I'm going to use a color that, like I said, it doesn't affect me. I don't know if it affects you. If it does, I apologize, but I use colors, and one of the colors I use is this. Okay, well that I don't use that color, but it's one of the colors I have. I have multiple colors, so when I'm going through a blitz, I would uh, bring up these colors full screen, and I would just flash it in the face of the perps. Okay, and when I do that, because they're so concentrated on psychologically attacking you, right, it affects them negatively. Then they'll turn away. Every time they see me, I have my phone in my hand, they will turn away. Right. So that's one of the things that I use as a defense mechanism when I'm being, you hear the police as a defense mechanism, right? Because again, they don't want you affecting their um, sheeps, I should say, you know, negatively. But it's okay for their sheeps to engage in psychological harassment to affect you negatively. But I'll still continue to use it. I don't care. They can. I use it on the police. Okay. None of them have ever approached me to the point where I can use it. But if they did, I'm definitely using it. Okay. So let's get that straight. All right. Um. So anyhow, like I said, don't be fooled. And I talk about here in New York City Police Department. Um, they basically have a hidden uh funding. Okay. Let me, because again, I don't like to just talk about this stuff. I'm going to show you guys that, I'm not just saying this just to say it. Okay, let's see that. Um, I know it was a big story on this, right? I should say. So then you got to word these things a certain way in order for. Here you go. All right, so let me pull up the article. Okay. The NYPD uh, had a secret fund for surveillance tool. Not had, they still have. Okay, they still have. New York City police brought a range of surveillance tools, including facial recognition software, predictive policing software, van equipped, vans equipped with X-ray machine to detect weapon, and Stingray cell site simulators with no public oversight. So the reason why they have these secret accounts is because again, there is no public oversight. They're not using public funding. They're using funding provided to them by corporations or even possibly uh, 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 security agencies, right? Such as the CIA uh, and the military as well. All right. So again, in all, the document showed that NYPD spent at least 159 million since 2007 through a little-known special expense fund that did not require approval by the city council or other municipal officers. So again, I talk about this. When you see police departments across America, okay, having secret funds, okay, having secret funds in which there is no oversight of what they do with this funding, right? The security and surveillance tools that they buy with this secret funding, and there's no oversight. So they're not, beholden to the city councils, right? They don't have to reveal what it is they do and how much money they have. Okay, that's a problem. That is a problem. And the people at the top running the NYPD, this includes the mayors, right? What sort of agenda have they been up to and are up to? Okay? See, the NYPD job is to hold people accountable, or police departments hold people accountable for the crimes that they commit. But no one is holding these uh, police departments, agencies accountable for all the crimes they're committed and have committed, all the violation of people's rights they're committed. So you may see on television a few people on the police force, either um, uh, fired from their job, demoted from their positions, or even brought up on criminal charge, which is rare. If you look at the vast overall situation where you see the vast majority of police officers kill people, violate people's rights, nothing is being done. Nothing is being done. Like I said, within the past few years, the NYPD settled some of the largest, well, not NYPD, but New York City settled some of the largest disputes in the history of uh, the city when it comes to what the NYPD, a New York Predators Department, that's what I call them, uh, have done and were engaging in. Okay, when they talk about dictators in other countries, it's the same here. We're just under the illusion of democracy and freedom. So until you start looking at these things for what it really is and what and like I said, as TIs, when we're talking about what's happening to us, yeah, they'll do everything to discredit us, right? Because they don't want people to listen to us. Okay, this is why psychiatry is used and have always been used to discredit people like us. whistleblowers, right? Even within government agencies and police departments, psychiatry is the first thing they use to discredit you. Okay, we'll go. You know the movie with was it Al Pacino, Serpico, you know, exposing the NYPD, and that's based off a true story. You know, they use psychiatry. It was another police officer. I forgot his name, but you know, after he spilled, I think it was in the '90s, spilled the beans and what was happening in the NYPD again. They use psychiatry to discredit him, right? They actually threw him into a psych ward. This is what they do. There's a woman lawyer uh, got stopped by two police officers, you know, and she knew that they were profiling her, and because she was a lawyer, they knew that. What did they do? They threw her in the psych ward to discredit her. Kept her in there for days. And what's the reason they gave? Because she said that she, you know, something with we had to with Obama. Okay, again, use psychiatry. They've always done this. All right, and like I said, I for one, I'm not going to be uh, quiet on what they've done. All the threats that they've thrown my way, it doesn't matter to me because I realize that this is more important than me. Okay, this is bigger than me. All right, so with that being said, oh, I'm well over an hour on this. Uh, I will talk to you guys in the next video.